The market is going crazy today with by far the best day in the year coming up today on the Nasdaq. Look at this, 3.24% up. The reasons are manifold. One reason, of course, is that Trump really this time seems to stop the war. I think he feels tremendous pressure from the entire world to stop this whole situation and gets more and more updates internally where the military says this is just not a good idea to deploy boots on the ground. Everyone knows it, but now it seems to really dawn on Trump. Let's stop the whole situation, stop the madness, and just say that's it. Everyone would reward him for that. It would be a tremendous win because no one likes this anymore. The markets take it, of course, extremely positively. It's still time to limit the damage done here on the oil price and everything. And on top of that, we also heard the Fed saying they might lower rates because people got very concerned about the inflation effect of the Iran crisis and that people were talking about hiking rates, which of course would be very, very bad for all of us. The Fed understands that unemployment is rising, that AI is eating all the jobs. The whole employment situation is very weak, and that's one of their two objectives, keeping unemployment low. The other is keeping inflation under control. And we have heard that was exactly when the Nasdaq went up like crazy, when the Fed commentary was, well, we might even see lower rates end of the year. So this is all happening. Now for us, as people who are interested in the future of the AI stocks, the big ones, Nvidia, and of course, Tesla, we have to understand where we are situated in this crazy market. Look at this. This is year to date, the Nasdaq down 7.64%, pretty much a bloodbath, not a horrible bloodbath, but a grind that was extremely exhausting. So today that relief rally doesn't mean it's over. Let's not forget Iran is still ongoing. That is the massive story and the main risk here. And I de-risked a lot around here, so that saved me a lot of losses. And now we have to understand what the situation is. If everyone is right, everyone now saying Trump is going to stop this whole thing, the market would rally. I do think the odds for that have risen tremendously. We got a lot of messaging that he has had it. He also signals he doesn't care anymore if it looks like a mini loss or something. He doesn't care anymore if the Strait of Hormuz is still closed. I said if the Strait is still closed and the US would stop this whole thing, they judo Iran into actually stopping this blockade. Because if they don't get attacked anymore but still block the Strait of Hormuz, the rest of the world would put a lot of pressure on Iran, say, are you kidding me? Stop this. They have now a good defense saying, well, we got attacked, we have to do that. But once that is gone, I don't think they can uphold this. So it would be the right judo move to stop it. Then they stop blockading the Strait of Hormuz. Then the oil price goes back where it belongs and everyone is happy. That is the situation that seems now increasingly likely. Now, I'm very underexposed since I took shaved a lot of stuff off my portfolio, including Tesla, including Nvidia, including MicroStrategy. Of course, Tesla is still a major position. The core I don't touch. The question is, are we going back in, or what is the plan? That is what everyone wants to know. And that's why I want to do this video, even though I did the last video just a couple of days ago on this whole Pioneer Alpha situation, how I managed the situation and position myself and our portfolio over here. Well, the big picture is with that risk going down, but still prevailing over Easter. That is the problem. That is the problem. We see on the Tesla side of things, CyberCap coming closer. Version 14.3 of FSD. The unlock, in my opinion, the final unlock of full autonomy coming up in the next 14 days, in my opinion. Minimum in the next month. And the combination of CyberCap production ramping up and 14.3 coming out and everyone knowing they have prepared all these cities, this could be the moment. I think it will be the moment. I am willing to bet that Q2 is very likely, 75% or higher probability, the moment in time when Tesla actually rolls out autonomy. For real. No joke. And if that happens, we have to understand Tesla is very strong up today, but it has fallen off a cliff. Look at this. This is the performance. Of 18% roughly this year. Even Pioneer Alpha is down, I think 11% or something. Today a little less, 10%. So while we outperform Tesla, we're down. Tesla is down 18% despite this coming up. And this is exactly what I told everyone. Tesla will be slowly deflating relative to the market. Now we also saw the market going down. That's why Tesla went down since December. Q1 came exactly into play as I predicted it, deflation of Tesla with no catalysts. But I also said very clearly, Q2 could be an absolute game changer and could actually initiate the great repricing of the stock. As always, you have to be cautious. You have to watch the political situation. Who knows what comes next? But for now, we could enter a mini golden quarter for the stock market and for Tesla. This whole thing is a coiled spring, the Nasdaq. The AGI revolution, the AI transformation of the world is progressing faster than ever before. Stocks like Nvidia have now the lowest price earnings ratio. The lowest price earnings ratio in 7 years. In 7 years. Nvidia, by the way, up 4.7%. That's a lot for a $4 trillion stock. By the way, they dropped under 4 trillion. Crazy. So when you look at Nvidia, also down 7%. Nvidia, one of the greatest stocks ever, with an incredibly low PE ratio now. The forward PE ratio is ridiculous. Like, this is actually way too high. Incredibly low PE ratio. Dramatic growth in margin, perfectly positioned to capture the entire upside of AI going forward. Not the entire upside, but the entire upside of their sector, chips. So Nvidia tells you a little bit how much of a margin and a bargain and a coiled spring this market is. So everything now hinges on the question, is the Iran risk off the table? We will have another video on that tomorrow or the day after. Let's see, whenever I feel the situation actually becomes more crystallized and clear. But I am turning towards a more and more only a quarter risk or something that Trump escalates this, a 25% risk. America is pretty much cornered at this point. If America escalates this, how? Boots on the ground would be a complete disaster, and every expert is now agreeing with me. I'm watching them all, and it's like there is not many experts, not many military experts out there who say you can do that. It would create a tremendous downside risk. At the same time, it would give Iran a basic carte blanche to start destroying the entire infrastructure, and then we have a true disaster. So the good news is it's unlikely that Trump commits like political suicide here. The bad news is if that actually happens, it would be a catastrophe for the market. That is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with something that is increasingly unlikely to happen, but represents a massive tail risk. If it happens, it would be catastrophic, because then we are incurring massive damage on the entire oil infrastructure. Oil would go to 150, 200, and the entire oil futures curve goes up on the back end, on the tail end in December and going into 2027, and that would have a massive impact on the markets. High risk, low probability. That is the latest, and that means we have to be a little cautious ramping up our exposure, even though it hurts, because now the probability that this is the bottom is probably 75%. But if it's not, if the 25% come into play that it's not the bottom, we might get hurt extremely badly if we get now too much exposure to the AI stocks, including Tesla. If we go in with leverage, for example, very tempting, very likely to work, but if it doesn't work, it's going to be very nasty. So that's why I unfortunately have to wait a little bit longer. Maybe we can fade in some more exposure. I'm under 100% exposure, so maybe it's time to fade it in a little bit, but I will be still very hesitant to take on leverage here. Something I definitely would do if it wouldn't be for this massive tail risk, because I do think there is enormous upside potential coming very quickly now in our direction. So this is the situation that I'm seeing here. Let's go back to daily. We are up 4% for Tesla, and we are up an incredible 4% for Tesla. Where is Nvidia? So we are up nearly 4% here, and for Nvidia we are up an incredible 4.66%. Let that sink in for Nvidia. So this movement of Nvidia tells you, oh my God, the market wants a rally so badly, an extreme rally where Nvidia goes straight back up to 190. That will happen at the millisecond where this Iran disaster is over. Make of it what you want. Be cautious. Don't be too greedy. I think the situation is exactly as I explained it. The probability, if you bet strongly on the market, that you come out winning on the other end in a week is probably 75% win chance. The problem is if it goes wrong, it's going to be a disaster. So That's how I see it. We have to watch it day by day, decide on the exposure. I think the right move is to fade cautiously in, but are willing to turn around and pull the trigger and sell off that stuff if you see any indication that for some reason we see an escalation again. I hope that was helpful. This is the time to stay on absolute top of the macro developments in Iran and at the same time Tesla's moves. Nvidia is just going to move the market very strongly up, maybe more than its beta. But Tesla is the inflection point stock that we have to watch. So let's see what happens. I will keep you guys updated and see you tomorrow.